This show contains spoilers and adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
Movies with Ron, movies with Ron.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Movies with Ron.
So, Dark Tower. Last week was Dark Tower. Any thoughts?
That was a fun episode.
Yeah, I liked it. One thing I liked in particular was when the man in black confronts the mother. And she's like, the guilt you must feel.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. First time I heard it. And then even going through the edit, I was like, man, characters don't feel enough shame.
I know.
They don't have those moments enough. And you know, using The Shining is like when Frodo uses the ring and the wraiths know where he is.
Yeah.
Man, what the fuck?
I know.
If this movie was a success, every time Idris Elba gets laid, he could be like, now for the real Dark Tower. Because if he says it now, his date's going to be like, you mean like you're an underperformer?
Yeah, like, so it's a big flop.
Welcome to episode 62 of Movies with Ron, the podcast where my older brother recaps a movie he saw from beginning to end for me and you, because we like his versions better. It's okay if you've seen the movie. It's okay if you haven't seen it. The experience is unique, so let's get it on. I'm Chris, your MC for the time being. Rick is absent this week. We wish him well. And here he is.
He's the ball cracker, death on foot. You know him, you love him. He's Ron.
Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, what's up, man?
So, no Rick this week.
Yeah.
I thought I'd invite our good friend Chucky.
I'm one of the most notorious slashers in history.
All right.
I thought it was fitting, because it's the whole Annabelle thing.
Yeah.
I know, she probably just sits there through the whole movie while all the other hauntings happen. That's from what I gather, that's what it is. But maybe Chucky's got some criticism.
All right, we'll see.
But Rick usually does his movie death of the week.
Yeah.
And last week was Dark Tower, big Stephen King thing.
Uh-huh.
And Rick's segment, you know, it's always kind of been his own.
Yeah.
Finding something he likes, a death.
Uh-huh.
We kind of pressured him.
We did.
We wanted him to do a Stephen King death.
Right.
From one of those movies. All right, so we gave him a bunch of ideas. I think we cramped his style.
You think we broke him?
Well, see, what happened was, eventually, he chose one of the ones we recommended, when Gage dies at the end of Pet Sematary.
Yeah. No fear.
Yeah, he
No
dies.
fear.
He dies at the beginning of the movie by the truck, but at the end, when he's the zombie Gage,
Yeah.
it's a pretty significant death,
Yeah.
right? But Rick noted that it kind of bummed him out.
Yeah.
Like he keeps choosing these action movie deaths and going into detail.
This one just made him too damn sad.
Yeah, I guess. And that's why he never ended up doing one last week.
Yeah.
But he's out this week, but he still wanted to do something.
Uh-huh.
So he wrote a little something down,
Okay.
but it's not a death. All right, it's something different. I think Rick wants to,
What?
he wants to pick anything he finds in a movie to tell people about.
Okay.
So, until Rick comes up with a better title for his segment, I'm gonna call this
Movie Thing of the Week.
all right.
Okay.
Here it is, folks. The punch heard round the moon pool. That's what he's calling this.
Huh.
And he quotes, "They used to call this the hammer."
Oh, okay.
Does that make any sense to you?
The Abyss.
Yeah, okay. Rick says, "Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I know you were expecting a movie death of the week, but I'll tell you what, this might just do the trick. Does anybody remember a movie called The Abyss?
Yes.
With the water tentacle and some of the best hero acting of all time from Ed Harris?
Hell yeah.
Kyle Reese gets the shakes, and smashes the shit out of a radio for playing country music.
Uh-huh.
Well, this film has got one of the loudest thunderclap of a punch I have ever heard. Think of the sound when Indiana Jones punches a Nazi. Now, times that by, let's say, 5.
Okay.
And you've got what Catfish DeVries, played by Leo Burmester, does to Lieutenant Coffee, Michael Biehn.
Right.
Ed Harris is in a fight with Coffee to keep him from sending a nuclear warhead down to the alien civilization that, for some reason, glows purple and resides on the depths of the ocean floor.
Right.
Eddie gets a few good ones on Coffee, but Coffee is a trained killer, losing his mind and convinced that our new alien friends are really Russian spies up to no good. And anything or anyone that stands in his way from protecting his country are going down. He's got our amazing Ed Harris in a choke lock with a chain, and Eddie is quickly losing his consciousness.
Yeah.
Enter Catfish. The scene, the act of a coworker/friend stepping up to the plate to administer a one-punch can of ass-whooping, is fucking beautiful.
Hell yeah.
Director Cameron pulls through with a simple yet beautiful execution of what, on script, couldn't be described as fantastic as what you will witness. Our shot is on Coffee and Ed in their struggle, and all you hear is one word off screen. Hey!
Yeah.
Coffee turns and drops Ed just in time to see Catfish driving home a freight train of knuckle. One, if you slow down the film at this point, you'll see the shot of Catfish swinging. When it's about to land, the entire screen whites out.
Yeah.
You see what it looks like to get your fucking bells rung by this red-bearded badass. 2, the sound. It's fucking bone-rattling. Ever had lightning strike right next to you? Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
3, we close out this hair-raising example of heroic badassness with a medium shot of Catfish staring down Coffee as if to say, let's fucking do this.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you don't watch this, you experience this. And if you're checking this scene out for the first time, do it in surround sound with the volume way up. Expect goosebumps. Leo Burmester is, sadly, no longer with us.
Oh.
Good old Catfish. He passed on June 28th, 2007, but before he did good for charity with music festivals, for Save the Lakes of New York, and for Hurricane Katrina survivors.
All right.
A true badass worked in Hollywood. This scene exemplifies the heart of the man who played Catfish. They used to call this the Hammer. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your
Movie Thing of the Week.
All right, Ron, we got a question on Facebook from Jimmy Lansing.
All right, Jimmy.
He says, would you like to see the movie Small Soldiers remade? I'd like it, but I also think it's holding up pretty well, too. What are your thoughts? Small Soldiers. When was the last time you thought about that movie? With the toys, right?
Yeah. Actually, not too long ago when we were looking for samples for a war movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think when we were about to do Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
He did the voice of the main bad guy. That's the thing, though, is toys come to life. There's the soldiers, who are the good guys. This company is making these toys. And then there's the Gorgons.
Yes, the Gorgons.
Yeah, and they're kind of like mutants. And they're the enemies. But when they come to life, the soldiers are evil.
Yeah.
And the mutants, the outsiders, they're they were unsung heroes all along.
Yeah. Well, the soldiers, they don't believe they're the bad guys.
That was a point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
Is kids don't know that.
I know.
Like me seeing it, it's the same thing I thought when I saw How to Train Your Dragon. I thought it was kind of like an apologist storyline.
Yeah.
It was like, don't trust the big strong guys who protect you when they're wrong. But I think if it were remade today, there would be a bigger threat. and then the Gorgons and the soldiers would have to team up.
Yeah.
That would be a little more with it,
That is what would happen.
at least these days. I made sure to point out that you can't replace Phil Hartman. How are you going to remake that? You know?
Oh, yeah. He's gold.
It was his last movie, and probably he has a line in that movie
I know exactly what you're going to say.
that, I don't know, for some reason, it stuck with me all
Me
these
too.
years.
Me too. Every
Every scene he's in, he steals.
Yeah.
Like, he owns that movie, and that's why it's going to be hard to remake it. Anyways, he gets this brand new giant TV,
Yeah.
right? And he's flipping through channels.
And he's all excited and he's sitting there and he's eating popcorn and flipping through channels over and over. And he just goes, he crosses over some war movie and he just goes, I think World War II is my favorite war.
He's like shoveling popcorn in his mouth when he's saying, I think it was my favorite war. All right, directed by Joe Dante, the guy who directed
Gremlins.
Yeah. And this movie kind of has the same story as Gremlins.
Yeah.
Okay, Burger King agreed to market the film with its kids' meals
I remember that.
before it was rated PG-13.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. That's what happened with this movie. The kids couldn't go see it.
Yeah.
The film was released soon after an Oregon teen named Kip Kinkle killed his parents, then went on a shooting rampage at Thurston High School in Springfield.
Jesus.
Yeah, and there's one of the soldiers is Kip Killigan. And so he was not distributed with the Happy Meals.
Yeah.
Or whatever they call their meals for kids.
I think World War II is my favorite war.
Just the fucking detachment. It's so powerful. And only Phil Hartman could do that. There you go, Jimmy. And thank you for the segue.
Hell yeah.
Movies with dolls in them. Huh?
Damn right.
Annabelle creation.
Annabelle creation, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Once again, we have a sequel to a shitty horror movie that is fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I loved it.
The second one that comes out, but it's the prequel.
Yeah. And
What was the other one?
Ouija.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did an episode on Ouija, Origin of Evil.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
It also has Lulu Wilson in it, just like Ouija, Origin of Evil did.
Yeah.
This
She
girl
was-
is a good luck charm.
She was the bad guy, kind of, right?
Yeah.
In Ouija.
She was possessed.
Yeah.
She doesn't get possessed this time.
But Annabelle is kind of a true story.
Kind of.
Kind of. The Annabelle doll is real.
Yeah.
That's the doll in these films. The real doll is like a Raggedy Ann
Yep.
kind of thing. They had to spruce it up for the
Yeah.
movies.
And boy, did they. They definitely overdid it.
It is from the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were made into film versions with the Conjuring movies.
Yeah. This is an extension of the Conjuring expanded universe.
Yeah. All right. So Ed and Lorraine, the paranormal experts,
Yeah.
they had a room full of trophies and trinkets from every case they do.
Uh-huh.
It's in Monroe, Connecticut.
Yeah, it's like a little museum.
And behind a glass case, the big feature of their museum is Annabelle, the doll.
Uh-huh.
And there's a sign on the front of it that says, absolutely, positively do not open.
Yeah.
Ed Warren will always tell the story to people. I've got a photo of the actor, Patrick Wilson. He played Ed
Yeah.
in the movies excellently.
Yes, he did.
He went to see the real Annabelle doll and took a picture with it,
Uh-huh.
and he does not look happy.
Yeah, Jesus. He's like, maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
I'll put that on the social media. Okay. The story of the real Annabelle doll was two student nurses. One of the nurses was given the doll as a gift from her mother. The mother bought it from a hobby store
Right.
in her town. Weird shit happened with the doll, so the girls took it to a medium who said it was possessed by someone named Annabelle Higgins, who died when she was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so the medium tells these two student nurses, The real Annabelle, the girl, used to play in this park that the nurse's apartment is built on. So the nursing students, they notice the doll
moving around.
It changes positions. Eventually, it evolves to changing rooms randomly.
Yeah.
And then it starts writing handwritten notes that say, like, help us.
Yeah.
Then they find blood on the doll for no reason.
Some friend of theirs, like, picked it up and, like, threw it across the room or something, and then all these gashes appeared on his chest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was Lou. He was the fiancé of one of the girls.
Okay.
And another thing that happened to him, he wanted the doll gone, so he woke up and saw Annabelle crawling up his chest and choking him.
Yeah.
Right after you wake up, man.
Now remember, it's a big Raggedy Ann doll. So one might think that would be a scary experience. But when I really think about it, I'm like, no, I mean, sure, it'd be freaky, but there's just no threat from Raggedy Ann,
Oh, it's paranormal, dude.
I guess.
It's possessed. It defies the laws of physics. Well, should it weigh the same weight that a person weighs? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one thing, movies that have dolls possessed and moving around, they never quite got that right.
Correct.
You'd see moments in Chucky movies where
he's being whipped around like he's weightless. Yeah. Like he doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah. You're just seeing an actor struggle around with a light prop.
Uh-huh.
There is a limit to how much I can take.
So Gerald Little, the biographer, he says this lasted a fucking year. Would you have been able to last
fucking
a
around
year?
with this doll?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Wow.
Like, I understand it moving room to room. Like, I would never be convinced a doll is haunted if it's switching rooms. Fucking apartment maintenance man doing shit, But it turned out the reason why they lasted a year was they connected with the story that the medium told them so much. Like, they thought it was a 7-year-old girl. So they were like, oh. But then it starts attacking the closest penis, and they're like, fuck this. So the Warrens say the doll is possessed by an inhuman spirit. There's no such thing as, like, benevolent ghosts.
Yeah.
That's
I want to see some ghosts.
That's one of the things I love about the Conjuring movies, is that rule that they go by.
Yeah.
All right, so about the Warrens, like years later, the Annabelle doll is in the, they took it from the girls.
Right.
They took the doll. It's in its glass case, and when a guy visits, and he raps really hard on the doll's glass case.
Yeah, he's like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, and then like not a week later, he died in a car accident.
No. This actually happened to 2 different men. The first was a priest that was visiting Ed, and they were talking about the doll. The priest all of a sudden picks up the doll, screams out, "No demon is more powerful than the power of the Lord," and throws it across the room. Ed Warren is like, dude, what the fuck? I fucking just got done telling you, don't touch this shit.
Did you read the sign?
Yeah. And the priest is like, yeah, whatever. And he leaves. On his way home, he gets into a wreck.
Oh, yeah?
But he did survive it. And he ended up calling Lorraine and saying like, yeah, holy shit, man. And then sometime later.
The next guy was on a motorcycle.
Yeah. He was the one that was like, I don't believe any of this shit.
Yeah.
If it can attack anyone, let it attack me now. And then nothing happened. And he was like, see?
Yeah.
And then Ed was like, dude, you got to get the fuck out of here. And he was like banging on the case. He didn't actually touch the doll or anything. And then on his way home, about 3 hours later, he was dead.
Yeah. So the biggest skepticism about the Annabelle doll is that the 2 nursing students should have come forward by now, and they have not.
Yeah.
And they're still young, 50s or 60s, right?
Yeah, I
At
hear
least
you.
one of them's got to be still alive to verify, but they haven't. Also, there's a 1963 episode of The Twilight Zone that features a haunted doll given by a mother named Annabelle to her daughter. But one of the things the Warrens defend is they never charge for their services.
Right.
They charge for their public appearances.
Uh-huh.
So why would they be lying? If it's true, in my opinion, The answers lie in the hobby store that the nurse's mom bought it from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a creepy fucker putting souls into shit.
Yeah.
Fucking hobbies to paintbrushes.
Looks like the spider just caught a couple of flies.
Or it's the mother. You know? What's she doing? She got a dark secret? Huh? I don't know. But I'll tell you the Annabelle movie I want to see. I want to see the movie of the two nursing students hearing the story that the medium told them, and they're all compassionate of Annabelle's story, and they decide to keep her like when girls find a lost kitten.
Uh-huh.
And it's like interacting with a possessed doll is good practice for child rearing. So it's like, oh, you've got blood on you. We got to clean you up and shit.
Yeah.
And it's like they're kind of like oblivious
Yeah.
to the hauntings. Doesn't have to be a scary movie. The doll helps them study for exams. But anyways, instead, we got Annabelle from 2014, the standalone movie they made.
Yeah,
the first
yeah.
one.
Took place in the 60s.
Yeah. So it's before the two nursing students.
Yeah.
The Annabelle movie. A pregnant couple gets the doll.
Yeah, her husband gives it to her as a gift, and it is, from the beginning, the scariest fucking doll you've ever seen in your life. And he's like, hey, I got you this, babe. It costs 2 months' rent, but I know you're a collector. And she's like, oh my God, it's perfect. And it's like, wee, wee, wee. It's horrible looking, man.
Dude, in Annabelle creation, the director was like, nobody would ever own this doll.
Correct.
And he made them soften her features. Okay, so the pregnant couple, they try to throw the doll away, but it keeps showing up, I guess. It switches rooms, it writes notes, and eventually starts a kitchen fire.
Indeed.
But does she kill people in that movie, Ron?
She does not. It turns out that I watched Annabelle for the first time just yesterday
To like prepare?
to prepare for creation. The doll actually does almost nothing. And it turns out that there is a demon,
Yeah.
haunting the family.
Here's
And it's kind of tied to the doll, but the doll doesn't get up and run around and do all the
Motherfucker.
shit that everybody fucking wants. At one point, the doll does sit up, but then we see a fucking demon like behind it. And it is a big old black horned fucking demon with like glowing eyes and shit.
Oh, man.
It's pretty scary looking, all right? So the pregnant couple gets a new house and they're just starting their life. They have these neighbors called the Higginses, who sadly lost their daughter about 4 years ago. She was 20-something. And one night, the pregnant lady hears a scream next door. And we see, from the pregnant lady's point of view, the Higginses are dying next door. Somebody has just fucking cut them up and killed them. So then she looks over and the lights go out. And she's like, honey, something's going on here.
Oh.
And he has to go next door, and we get this shot of the two houses next to each other, and he's like running over to the next house to ring the bell. He comes back and he's like, babe, there's fucking blood everywhere. Holy shit, call the police. And it turns out that a satanic cult broke into their home and murdered them. And one of the members was their estranged daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, and she was like doing the cult leader, and he looks like fucking Charles Manson and shit.
Okay.
And, she brought the cult into her parents' home and murdered them. And her name was Annabelle Higgins. So they call the police, and then the pregnant lady is back in her house, and she's like, oh, God, this is so horrible. Awful, awful. And then the fucking cult members are in her house, and they fucking attack her. And Annabelle comes after her and starts fucking trying to slash her up and shit, stabs her in her pregnant belly, and it's all like, fucking danger, danger.
Ooh. This is in the modern time frame of the movie?
Yeah, in the 60s.
Okay. Are we to believe that's how the doll gets haunted?
Well, Annabelle starts carrying the doll. She finds the doll in her house and starts carrying it around like a baby. Now, the husband is like fighting with the Charles Manson motherfucker, and everybody, all the cult members end up dying. And Annabelle is just sitting there holding this doll and just like letting out her last breaths. And then a drop of blood comes out of her face and like drips into the eye of the doll.
Oh.
So weeks later, they're trying to put their lives back together. You know, she didn't lose the baby. They end up having the baby. And then all this paranormal shit starts happening to them. And she's like, It's a fucking doll, man. Get this fucking doll out of here.
So
And
that
the
happens
husband,
at like the beginning?
yes, the beginning of the film.
Oh, okay.
So the husband like throws it away in the trash, and then they have to move because she just can't take it anymore. And they end up in an apartment building in Pasadena.
Oh.
And when they're unpacking, there's the fucking doll.
Okay.
And
There
she's like, as a sign of strength, I'm going to go ahead and keep the doll. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I like cultists. I don't know if they exist.
They're not in enough shit.
Yeah, they're scary, man. They're cool.
In fact,
They're not cool, but
the new Chucky movie is called Cult of Chucky.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Life sure is full of surprises.
Yeah. And also the new season of American Horror Story is about a cult.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But I saw one scene in a YouTube video from the first Annabelle.
Okay.
And it's when I think it's the mom, the pregnant, well, I don't know if she's still pregnant, but she's in a room and looking across the hall from the open door into another room, and there's a little girl
holy shit.
in
Dude,
there.
Let me stop you right there. I'm watching this movie, and it's pretty dumb. It sucks. And there is this motherfucking gem of a scare
It really is.
in the middle of this movie. And I'm like watching it on my phone, I rented it on YouTube,
I chose wisely. That's all I needed to see.
And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
It's kind of the shit that makes you look behind you while you're watching the movie.
Shit, man. So she's standing in the bedroom. She's being haunted, and she's like, what the fuck's going on here? She's hearing noises and shit. She's inside the bedroom. She looks out the bedroom door into the hallway, and there is this little girl standing out in the hallway, just standing there in a little white nightgown. And she's like, what the fuck's going on here? And then the little girl starts to walk towards the door, and then she starts to run. But then another unseen force starts closing the fucking door.
Yeah.
So the door starts closing by itself. The little girl is now running full tilt for the door. Just as she gets to the door, it actually shuts, which is then pushed the fuck open, and now it's adult Annabelle coming in to kill her and screaming.
Yeah, man. Oh, God.
She's all covered in blood and shit. I was like,
It's instantaneous and seamless and fucking frightening.
it was great, man.
Yeah. So I wanted to research other doll movies.
Yeah. There was another one back in the 80s called Dolls. You run into that one?
From 1987 by Stuart Gordon.
Yeah, man.
I remember that from our childhood. I loved it as a kid. And it was frightening.
This guy at work, Fred, he was like, hey, Ron, you ever seen a movie called Dolls? And I was like, dude, how old are you? He's like, in his 20s or something. And I was like, how the fuck do you know about that movie?
The doll in that one, well, there's lots of dolls.
Right.
But the main one is like a jester doll that the little girl gets.
Yeah.
You remember his name?
I do not.
Mr. Punch.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Because I tried watching it last night. Did not make it all the way through it.
Too dumb?
It doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
Anyways, we all know Child's Play. Chucky, based on a true story.
Indeed.
For real.
Yeah, I've seen the real doll.
Robert the Doll.
Yeah, he's pretty weird looking, man.
Yeah. In 2015, they made a movie called Robert.
Oh, really?
About Robert the Doll, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Then in 2016, there's The Curse of Robert. And in 2017, a prequel came out called Robert and the Toy Maker. 3 successive years in a row, someone is busy trying to make a franchise of Robert the Doll. Not working.
No.
Okay, we talked about dolls. What about Puppet Master?
I was going to bring up the Puppet Master franchise.
Yeah, I kind of free fell into that. Do you know how many movies there are?
There's like 7.
There are 12.
Oh, my God.
I know, right? All right, the Puppet Master series was made by Full Moon Entertainment.
Yeah. Oh, God bless Full Moon Entertainment.
Yeah, we
They
grew
were
up on
the
that.
shit in the 80s, man.
yeah.
Subspecies.
Trancers.
Trancers.
Yeah.
Jack Death.
He was also Doll Man.
Yeah, he was Doll Man.
Puppet Master is if you combine Chucky with the Avengers. It's like a team of dolls.
Yeah.
And they each have a specific power.
Yeah.
And at first they're evil.
And they turned good after a while to take down these satanic dolls.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a prequel where they have to fight Nazis.
Ah.
and defend their puppet master. Anyways, the 4th one they fight little aliens.
Okay,
That's when
aliens,
they start
that's
like
what they were.
defending Earth.
Yeah.
This series goes through a whole evolution. In the 5th one, they fight, and I quote, the demon god that created the secret of life.
What the fuck?
Like, they fight God?
Oh my God.
There's like one guy that's spearheading all these puppet master movies. He wasn't always in charge, but he's always like had them get made.
Yeah.
I need to binge this series.
Yeah, man.
1998, Curse of the Puppet Master. 1999, Retro Puppet Master, which is in ancient Egypt. And they're like Egyptian looking dolls, but they're still the same Puppet Master dolls.
They're still like Blade.
Yeah. They're just like young versions of them.
Okay.
Fucking dude with the drill head.
Uh-huh.
There's
the little Nazi looking one.
Oh,
with
yeah.
like bullet teeth.
Has he got like a spike on his helmet head?
Yeah.
And his arm shoots fire, I think.
Yes.
2003, Puppet Master Legacy in 2003, although it was like a Power Rangers situation where all the humans in new scenes, all the scenes with the puppets recycled from the old movies.
Oh.
Fucking weird they did that shit. 2010 started the new trilogy.
Oh.
Puppet Master Axis of Evil. And they went full Nazis with this one.
Okay.
They're all good. They're all fighting Nazis.
Okay.
2012, Puppet Master Axis Rising. It's like the Batman movies, man. 2017, Puppet Master Axis Termination to complete the trilogy. 2017, dude.
Yeah.
It's still going on. We need to make a Puppet Master movie. All right, 1992, there was Demonic Toys. You remember that?
Yes, I do. Also a Full Moon Entertainment film.
Yeah, people trapped in a warehouse. The toy manufacturers, some of them are.
They ended up doing a crossover with Doll Man.
Dude, they did a fucking crossover with Puppet Master as well.
Like both?
They're two separate movies. There is
my
Doll Man
God.
versus Demonic Toys. Then there is Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. Although the guy who runs the Puppet Master series, he doesn't consider it canon. That one has Corey Feldman in it, by the way.
Oh, good, good.
All right. One last thing. How about a movie that we thought dolls were going to be in and haunted and moving around because it looked so fucking scary? Fucking James Wan movie, Dead Silence from 2007.
Oh, yeah.
It was all about the ventriloquist.
Right.
And then the dolls were used in the marketing materials.
Right.
And there was a scene where there was like 100 dolls on display on some wall.
Which was a creepy scene, man.
Yeah. None of them were haunted.
I know.
It was all just a creepy ventriloquist.
I still remember that movie fondly. I thought it was pretty good. A good sophomore effort on his part.
All right. Annabelle Creation. Directed by David F. Sandberg.
Yeah, you know him.
Oh, yeah. The guy who stole my short film.
Damn right. He made Lights Out.
Yeah. That's a good movie.
It was a good movie. Even better episode of Movies with Ron.
You got that right. He said, the Conjuring universe is more classic, old-school horror. Not many jump scares. It's more about dread and tension.
Oh, yeah. And that was fully prevalent in this film.
Yeah. And hearing that without seeing the movie, it's like, well, that's cool. You know, I want a guy who's going to like pay respect to the old ways.
The old ways.
Yeah. But there's one thing he said that I don't like. Maybe you can verify this. In Lights Out, every scene, it was his first feature.
Yeah.
And every scene was meticulously crafted beforehand.
Uh-huh.
All right. And here is the quote about Annabelle Creation. Sandberg was inspired by the set and the moment and did not prepare storyboards or diagrams, relying on the mantra, we'll figure it out on set together, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to hear that?
Nobody wants to hear that, but I'll tell you what. He made it work.
Did he?
He did.
All right. He said shooting the film was challenging because the doll was immobile.
Yeah.
And then the wind left my sails. Because the doll doesn't move around.
Yeah.
All right. Starring, we talked about Lulu, Anthony LaPaglia.
Hell yeah. An unsung hero of cinema.
He's had an interesting career.
He has.
Playing detectives. You might remember him from the Missing Persons show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought I wrote down, he plays a really good Bostonian.
Yeah.
Because of his accent.
Yeah.
But then I realized he is Australian, and that is just how he thinks he's trying to do an American accent.
He does pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Boston and shit, you know. He was in Annabelle Creation because his 14-year-old daughter heard him talking to his agent about it.
Yeah.
On the phone, and she convinced him. How many times do you hear that story?
You hear that a lot. Jaimin Hansu is in Guardians of the Galaxy for the same reason.
It's like these actors don't know what they're doing.
Letting the children decide.
He pats his daughter's head like, you were a good investment. Yeah. The release date of Annabelle Creation was pushed so it wouldn't compete with Alien Covenant.
Right.
Probably a good decision. And as of now, all we have is the numbers from Thursday. And it's already made $13 million of its $15 million budget.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man, they're going to keep making these movies.
David Sandberg, dude, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Well, so does like James Wan and the people running the universe.
Everybody doing the Conjuring shit, yeah.
Yeah, here's a quote from Scott Mendelson of Forbes. He calls the Conjuring universe the first actually successful post-Marvel cinematic universe.
Yeah, there you go.
And if you look at the numbers, man, those movies make some money.
Hell yeah, they do.
You got The Nun coming out now, and then The Crooked Man.
The Crooked Man.
Yeah. All right, folks, indicate on the doll where he touched you, because it's Annabelle Creation on Movies with Ron.
It's showtime.
All right, I'd like to add that just before this movie began, we got a thank you for coming to the movies fucking message from Stephen King.
Really?
He gives us then an exclusive look at the movie It, and it is nothing but a 5-minute scene of Georgie and Pennywise in the storm drain, and it's the whole scene.
Oh, wow.
It's fucking great, man. Oh my God.
Yeah? Did you hear that thing?
Yeah. Here, take it.
Isn't that fucking frightening?
Well, he is frightening the whole damn time, dude. The whole time he's talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Georgie's like, what are you doing in a storm drain? And he's like, a storm blew me away. Blew the whole circus away. And then he looks at Georgie and he goes, can you smell the circus? And Georgie like leans in to smell and he's like, yeah, it smells like, And then Georgie goes, popcorn. Popcorn, yeah. Oh, it's a pop, 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 pop. It's all fucking weird, man. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Did they show him being funny at all? Wasn't he funny in the miniseries?
He was a little funny, yeah. Funny like a clown,
Kiss me, fat boy.
They didn't show any of that. The whole thing was just that scene, but the full scene. So it's like when Pennywise first shows up, his eyes are fucking yellow. And then when he comes into the light and he's talking to Georgie and he's being all friendly, his eyes are blue. And then at the end, Georgie's like, I should go. And then Pennywise is like, and his eyes go fucking yellow again. Yeah, it's fucking fucked up, man. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So then the movie begins, and we have a whole shit ton of fucking logos. And then we get a wooden eyeball, like rolling around on a desk. And then we see the hands of this doll maker, and he like picks it up and dusts it off. Camera pans back, and we see all over his workshops, nothing but creepy fucking dolls everywhere. He's got like new versions of the Annabelle doll's face. Like he's making 100 of them.
Oh.
So it shows him putting this one together, and then, he like burns into the box. It says, Mullins Toys, number 1 of 100. And he boxes it up. And then this little handwritten note just like slides under the door of his workshop. And he picks it up and he reads it, and in crayon it just says, find me. This is Anthony LaPaglia.
Okay. The toy maker. What decade is it?
It's in like the 40s, I think.
Okay.
So he drives like an old Ford truck. Looks like Mater. So then he walks out of his workshop, and it's a separate building across from his actual house, which is a really nice house out in the country. So then he walks into the house, and there's a second note sitting down on the ground. He picks it up, and it says, "Closer." And he's like, looking around. And he's all serious looking, okay? He's walking into the house. He's looking around. And then he picks up a scrap of paper, and he writes something onto it. He folds it in half, and he sets it down on the piano, and then he walks away. In that same shot, then we see the curtains move aside, and there's this cute little girl who was hiding behind the curtains, and she walks up, picks up the note, reads it, and it says, "Found you." Mm-hmm. And then she gets fucking tackled by her dad, and he's tickling and shit. And then her mom comes in, and she's all like, "Oh, are you okay? You getting too hot there?" Leading us to believe maybe she's like sickly or something like that.
Yeah.
She's like, "No, I'm okay." "Oh, good, because it's my turn." And then she starts tickling her. So they're like a nice, happy family.
Yeah.
Then later that night, the mom's tucking her into bed, and she's calling her B. Like, "Hey, B, it's time for bed." She's like, I love you more. So then she turns the lights out, and lights out. And B says, "Mommy?" And the mom's like, "Okay, just for a little while." And then she goes over and turns on the record player, which is playing this old-timey music. And it's, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." Mm-hmm. So it cuts to the next day, and they are all leaving church, and life is good, baby.
You have a date with death.
And the dad gets stopped by some shop owner, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I got people. They're asking me for your dolls. Is my order ready yet?" And the mom's like, "You can send your son over to pick them up tomorrow. They are ready." "Oh, good." So then Anthony LaPaglia is like, "Yeah, all right, I'm doing it. I'm supporting my family by carving wooden dolls." It's the American dream. So then it cuts to them on the road, and they have had a flat tire. Anthony's changing it, and he's getting all pissed off. And the mom and B are standing in front of the truck, and the mom's like, do you need my help?" He's like, No, just stay over there. It's fine. And she's like, "Oh, hey, there's a truck coming. Why don't we flag them down and ask them for help?" And he's like, "No, I've got it. I'm fine." Right then, he's trying to wrench the tire off, and one of the lug nuts, flies into the road. Ding, 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 ding. And then little B just goes, "I'll get it." Runs out into the road to get the lug nut, gets fucking hit by the truck.
Jesus.
And they cut away just as it happens, but it was fucking violent. Right then the screen goes black, and then we see it's all full of wood, and then burning into it is the title card of the movie, Annabelle Creation. So we cut to a cross on that same roadside, and it says 12 years later. There's an orphanage bus riding down this country road, and in the back is Lulu Wilson and her friend Janice. So this bus is full of all these little orphan girls, and then the nun who's taking care of them, as well as the priest who is driving the bus. So in the back, Lulu and Janice are talking. They're like, "Yeah, I wish we were getting a nice new home other than going to a new orphanage." And Janice is like, "You'll get adopted way before I will." Because it turns out that Janice has had polio, and one of her legs is all fucked up. And she wears those Forrest Gump boots with the brace and shit.
Yeah.
But just on one leg. So then Lulu's like, "No, you know what? That's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to get adopted without you. Whoever wants me has to take you too. Let's swear on it." "Okay, we'll swear." And they're each holding their dolls. Janice says to Lulu, "You know what I like about your doll, Sweet Sue? It looks just like you." Then the priest driving the bus, he's like, "Now everybody, okay, Mrs. Mullins, she was in an accident some years ago, so you're not actually going to see very much of her. So when you do, try to help out and be nice, and don't make fun of her and shit." So they arrive at this awesome country house, and it's beautiful, and they're like, "Wow, it's amazing." And then we see it, and it's like, little rundown. They might have let it go just a little bit. Anthony comes out to greet the bus, and Janice is the last kid out of the bus, and that's when we get to see her booted leg.
You are so dead.
So then Anthony's showing them around the house, and there's some older girls with them, and they're like, "Oh, wow, it's like a castle. That makes us the princesses. There's a TV!" And then Anthony's like, "The TV doesn't work." And he's like, not happy at all that they're there. It made me wonder, why did they do this?
Do we know why?
They've decided to open their home to this orphanage, right? But We don't quite know why yet.
Oh.
And we're told that they lost their daughter, B, some years ago, and they're kind of maybe just trying to breathe some life into the house.
Oh.
Anyway, he's showing them around, and he's like, yeah, okay, so this door right here, this is where me and Mrs. Mullen sleep. Stay the fuck out of it. All of your bedrooms are upstairs, so let's go. And everybody runs upstairs except for Janice, because she's like, yo, my leg, bitch. And then the nun, Sister Charlotte, is like, sir, is there any way that Janice and I can stay downstairs, because of her leg? And he's like, oh yeah, hang on a second. He flips a switch, and then one of those electric chairs that rides up the wall from the Gremlins movie comes down.
Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yes, it was very convenient. So she gets in the chair, and she's like trying to push the button, and it's not working. And then Anthony's like, oh, it doesn't work unless the seatbelt is clicked in. So he straps her in with the seatbelt, and then he pushes the button, and then she starts to go real slow up the stairs. And everybody's like cheering for her. Yay, yay, Janice. And she's all happy because something's going her way. Chair goes all the way up to the top and then stops. We, the audience, are looking at her in the chair head on, and right behind her is like a super dark hallway. And we can just make out somebody in the darkness fucking walking around. So then it shows all these other girls, and they're in this bedroom with like 4 beds. And they're like, yeah, let's sleep here. And then so-and-so and so-and-so can sleep over there. And I think it was Janice who was like, well, where are me and Lulu going to sleep? There's other bedrooms. Oh, okay. So there's only 4 other girls. So they like totally fucking get left out. It's fine. So she goes and she's looking for another bedroom for them to sleep in. She finds this bedroom door that has little pencil markings all along the door jamb, like they were measuring B as she was growing up. Yeah. So it's B's bedroom. And Anthony walks up and he's like, yeah, no, this door's locked and it needs to stay that way. Then Lulu's like, in here, Jan. And they go into some other bedroom, which is totally fucking full of dolls. So that's where they're going to stay. And they have a bunk bed. Then we see the nun, Sister Charlotte, in her bedroom. And there is a dumbwaiter in the house. You know what that is?
It's like an elevator for food and trash.
Yeah, food and laundry and shit, yeah. The nun is walking by it, and it fucking springs open. And she's like, oh my God. And she had been like reading her Bible. So she turns around to look at this open dumbwaiter door. And then all the pages of her Bible start flipping around. And we are not sure whether it's from a draft coming through the dumbwaiter or if there is a motherfucking ghost turning pages.
Yeah. So
she goes and sticks her head in the dumbwaiter and she kind of pulls the rope on it to see where it is in the shaft. So then she gets out of it and, fuck it, just closes the door and turns around and then it fucking slams open again. Then a bunch of the girls come in and they're like, hey, is it okay if we go exploring? And the nun's like, yeah, I mean, okay, I guess. And Lulu is like, are you coming, Janice? And Janice is just like sitting there rubbing her leg. Like it's sore.
Ah, what the hell? I need the exercise.
She's like, no. And then Lulu's like, well, maybe then I'll just stay with you. No, you promised me you wouldn't treat me differently because of my leg. And then Lulu's like, well, okay, see ya. So all the girls are running outside to go and play and look around when Janice sets her crutch down and she decides to try to walk on her own steam over to the window. And it takes a really long time and you can see that it hurts. She looks outside and she sees all the girls running. And then we see her and fucking behind her in the background, this little girl just slides into frame. Like she wasn't walking, she just slid sideways into the background. And she starts walking up to Janice. Janice turns, and then there's nobody there. She looks down, and her fucking crutch is right there at her feet. So it, like, brought her fucking crutch. It's weird, man. Cuts to later that night, and they are at the dinner table, and everybody's there except for Mrs. Mullins. And they're all kind of looking around, and then we start to hear a bell ring off in the distance. And then Anthony is like, oh, if you'll excuse me. And he gets up, and he goes into the bedroom of he and his wife. One of the older girls, like, kind of stands up and, like, tries to spy in the door, and there's like some like sheer curtains, so we can kind of see through them, but not really. And then the dad sees what's going on, and he just like, oh, shut the fucking door. So the nun looks at her and she's like, hey, come on, mind your own business. They all sit down and start eating, and then the fucking lights start flickering on and off. Like there's maybe a problem with the power. Cuts to them saying prayers before they go to bed, and, you know, they're all praying for parents. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Janice and Lulu are in their bunk beds, and Janice can't fucking sleep. So she's laying awake when she hears something. She looks over, and there's a fucking folded note that has just slid under the door. And then we see a shadow from underneath the door kind of running away. She goes and picks up the note, and it says, find me. So she walks out into the hall, and it is fucking dark as shit. And she's like walking. She's on her crutch. She's pretty slow going. She passes by that weird bedroom door, B's bedroom door, and a note fucking slides out from under it. She reads it, and it says, in here. And I was like, fuck. But the door's locked, right?
Yeah.
And then it unlocks.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, shit. So that's not scary. So, you know, she just walks in. And inside the room, it's all fucking dark, but there's, you know, it's a little girl's bedroom. And there's like a little table set up with dolls sitting there having a tea party and shit.
Yeah.
And then there's this big thing in the middle of the room with a sheet draped over it. She walks up to it and pulls the sheet off. And it's this big, huge, giant, fucking awesome dollhouse. And it's a perfect replica of the house that they're in. And she's all like taken by it. She's like, oh, wow. You know, she obviously loves it.
Yeah.
She forgets that this is a very scary situation. What is happening right now? So then she gets down and looks into it. And she's looking into the room that she is in the actual house. And there's this little doll of this little girl standing there. And she's like, huh. And then the little closet door in the dollhouse just like opens up and a key falls out of it. And she picks it up. She looks back at the little doll and it's just kind of sitting there staring at her. And then she looks over at the closet, the real world version of the closet that just opened up in the dollhouse.
Huh.
She walks over to it and there's no knob, but there is a keyhole. So she uses the key and opens up the door real slowly. And then inside the closet in a little rocking chair is the fucking Annabelle doll. Just sitting there fucking staring out at her. So then she's like, huh, okay. And then just shuts it. Because it's fucking scary looking.
Oh, so it freaked her out.
Yeah.
Okay.
She shuts it and walks away. And then the door opens back up. And she's like, all right, okay, I guess I just didn't lock it. She walks over, shuts it again, fucking locks it with the key, starts walking back to the dollhouse. And it opens up again.
Oh, jeez.
And there's that fucking doll inside, sitting there staring at her. Janice is like, okay. She picks up the sheet from the dollhouse and like walks over to the doll and just throws it over it. Just like the little boy did with the clown in fucking Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Then she starts walking away and we can see that sheet-covered doll in the background. And then, yeah, it fucking stands up.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, man. I was like, holy shit. Then she hears a noise coming from outside the house. She goes over to the window, looks out, and sees Anthony leaving his workshop with a lantern.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, okay, you know, life sucks, but I gotta make dolls, you know, so I'm done for the night. I'm walking back to the house. And then he looks up, and he sees her in the window of his daughter's bedroom. And he's like, oh, fuck. And then he starts running into the house. So then she turns around. There's the fucking sheet standing there next to her. And it starts fucking walking towards her. And it's like, whoa! And she's fucking freaked out. She backs up. Fucking sheet thing keeps walking towards her. And now it is stepping on the sheet that is draped over it. So the sheet is now about to be pulled off of it.
Oh, jeez.
Then it falls, and there's fucking nobody there. And she's like, holy shit! She just runs out of the room.
Oh, man.
Coming up the stairs, she hears Anthony coming up. And she's like, oh, fuck, I better turn around and shut this door. She turns around, door's already shut. And she runs and jumps into the bottom bunk of her bed. And she sees a shadow on the ground of him standing there in the hallway, like trying to listen to whichever kid was up, fucking around. And then he leaves. The next morning, the older girls have found a well out on the property. They uncover it, and they're saying weird shit like, oh, yeah, I hear this is where Mrs. Mullen is kept, you know, because she's like a fucking monster. And they're like, oh, shut up, you're scaring us. And Lulu is like, you guys want to play hide and seek? And all the older girls who treat Lulu like shit for some reason are just like, yeah, sure, go hide. She's like, okay. She runs away to go hide. And then one of the other girls is like, well, are we going to go find her? And the oldest one is like, maybe. Cuts to Sister Charlotte and Janice. Janice is like, Sister, I've sinned. So she has to do confession with the nun. And to do that, they just sit back to back. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, I went into B's bedroom. And the nun's like, man, you can't fucking do that. All right? If you piss off the Mullins, then they're going to kick us out of the house and we're all going to get split up. Do you want that? And she's like, no.
Is the priest there?
The priest is not. He was just dropping them off.
Oh, okay.
The nun's like, for your penance, say one Hail Mary and then unpack the rest of these fucking boxes. Right then, Lulu busts in. She's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And then Janice just like, unpacking boxes. And Lulu's like, fuck that. Runs off. She's running up the stairs and she sees under the stairs that there's like grates, that there is like a crawl space underneath the stairs. She's like, oh, that's perfect. That's where I'll hide. Right about here, it cuts to the older orphan girls, and they have now broken into Anthony's workshop. They go inside and it's all weird and old and dusty looking and stuff, and there is this old fucking creepy as shit scarecrow hanging on the wall. And it's just got a burlap sack for a head, but its face is made by just kind of indents in the bag. There's not like a face drawn on it, but it still sort of has one.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, it's the Crooked Man. That fucking thing is going to come back to life later. They're leaving because it's scary, and one of the girls like turns around and stares at it for a while. And it's just kind of, it's not moving or anything. It's just a fucking scarecrow in the corner. But the way the camera lingers on it, I was like, that thing's probably going to get rapey later or something fucking horrible. So now it cuts to Lulu, and she's in the crawl space under the stairs, and she's looking out, the little vent, like, oh, this is so perfect. They're never going to find me here. And then she starts to hear fucking breathing behind her. She turns around and she's like, man, what the fuck? She walks into the back of the crawl space and there's a corner that she can turn around, and she goes around the corner, and there around that fucking corner is a rocking chair with the Annabelle doll in it. Fucking sitting there staring at her.
Oh, God.
And she's like, oh, Jesus. Now, it's dark in there, but behind the doll, we can see a fucking pair of eyes. Like behind the doll, standing there. And then all of a sudden, those eyes close, and the doll just gets pulled back into the darkness, and it's a big fucking jump scare. And it's like, holy shit. Scares the shit out of Lulu. She stumbles back and falls out the door, just as all the older girls are coming into the house, and they're like, aha, found you. You suck. At this point, Sister Charlotte is talking to Anthony, and she's like, here, this is an old picture of us in Romania. I was such good friends with all of these sisters. And it's a picture of like 4 nuns, okay? And he's like, oh, yeah. She's like, yeah, this is Sister Margaret, Sister Bing Bong, Sister so-and-so, and this is me. And then Anthony just goes, who's that? And she's like, who? And he goes, this one here. And in the photo, behind the nuns, you see a darkened doorway. And when he like turns the photo just a little bit, you can see the nun from the Conjuring 2 standing in the darkness. But it only flashes like every time like you kind of turn the photo a little bit, like it's a hologram or something.
Yeah.
And she goes, huh, I don't know.
Isn't it Valak?
Yes, Valak the Defiler. So it cuts to the older girls, and they're like sitting around talking about boys and shit. And Anthony like kind of walks by the doorway. And remember, he has not like reacted positively to these girls being in his house at all yet. And they all stop talking, and he's just standing there staring at them. And I'm like, man, say something nice to him. Yeah. It's okay. And he just stares at him. And then he just walks away. And then they all just start fucking laughing at him.
I would rather take my chances as a supernaturally possessed doll. It's less complicated.
So later that night, the 2 oldest girls are sitting on the floor of their bedroom, and they're underneath a sheet with a flashlight, and they're telling each other ghost stories, and they're like, oh, Mrs. Mullins, she's going to come out and get you, and she's going to be calling your name. Oh, Nancy, Nancy. And then they hear the fucking bell ring. And it's like super late at night. And they're like, oh shit, what's going on? And it keeps ringing. And they're like, why isn't Anthony, going to help her and answer her? And then we are underneath the sheet with them when their flashlight burns out. And they're like, oh, fuck. And now they can hear creaking walking around in the same room with them, and the fucking bell is ringing. There's some moonlight coming from the window, and we can see the silhouette of this fucking woman walking into the room.
Jesus. And the bell is in the room?
The bell is ringing in the room, like it's Mrs. Mullen.
Ah.
In there, okay? Now, we've already learned that Mrs. Mullen can't walk, so that's why she stays in her room. So the silhouette of this fucking creepy lady just, like, gets closer to the sheet. And then all of a sudden, there's a fucking hand that comes into the sheet and fucking grabs the face of one of these girls, and then that fucking thing's face pokes in to the sheet. And it's like this pale woman's face, and then, the sheet gets ripped away, and there's nobody fucking standing there. So these two girls just go fucking nuts, screaming.
Jeez.
Sister Charlotte comes in. She's like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? And they're like, oh my God, she was here. It's Mrs. Mullen. She was coming to get us. And then Anthony walks in and he's like, fuck's going on? And Sister Charlotte is like, well, apparently your wife was just here. And he goes, that's impossible. She hasn't walked in 12 years. So the next day, the girls are talking, those older ones, and they're like, you know what? It wasn't a ghost. We just scared ourselves. That's it, you know? So they just convinced themselves nothing happened. Then the bell rings, and Anthony is nowhere to be found. So Sister Charlotte decides to go and answer Mrs. Mullins. She walks into her room. Behind the curtain, we see Mrs. Mullins, played by Miranda Otto. She was the chick that killed the Goblin King in Lord of the Rings. She was like, I am no man.
Okay.
And she's all like fucked up, laying in bed. And she's like, Sister Charlotte, could you please get me some water? Like, yes, of course, of course. Gives her a glass of water. And then the lady's like, would you mind turning around? Like, not looking at me. So Sister Charlotte turns around, but now she can see Mrs. Mullins in a mirror. Mrs. Mullins is wearing one of those fucking Phantom of the Opera half masks.
Oh, yeah?
And the mask is painted up to look like the rest of her face. So she sees that and she's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like something fucked up.
And then she throws the glass of water on her.
I'm melting!
No, on the nose. Could you turn around, please? Fuck you.
Get the fuck out of my room. Charlotte sees a picture of Bee. She's like, oh, what a lovely picture. Mrs. Mullins is like, yes, that's Bee. She was taken from us many years ago. Charlotte's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but you know what? We take great comfort in knowing that she's waiting for you in heaven. And then Mrs. Mullins goes, I wish that were true. So cutting to Janice, she actually finds an old-timey picture of Bee sitting on a couch right next to the Annabelle doll. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, wow, look at that. It's that fucking doll. And she's like, takes the picture with her, goes back into her room. She goes to like put it under a blanket or something. And while that picture is in shadow, we see these two little glowing eyes on the photo itself. She pulls it out and they're gone. Puts it back under the shadow. And the eyes of the little girl in the photo are fucking glowing in the dark. So it's like they're staring at her. It's fucking creepy. And then she hears some old-timey music start to play. And it's like, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Coming out of Bee's room. So she fucking goes in there again. Walks up to the record player, which is turned on and playing, and turns it off. Right then, fucking Lulu walks into the room behind her. Now it's nighttime. It's dark. And she's like, oh my God, we should not be in this room, Janice. What the hell are you doing? Janice is like, this is Bee's room. This was the Mullins' daughter. Yeah, she died, like when she was a little girl. And then Lulu's like, well, goddamn, now we should totally not be in here. She picks up like a little toy gun. We can also see that the Annabelle doll is sitting on the bed. It's just sitting there, like staring straight forward, okay? Not really at them.
Yeah.
Lulu's just like talking to Janice and absentmindedly like playing with the gun when she accidentally fires it. And this little ball flies out of the gun and hits the Annabelle doll right in the face.
Ah, shit.
The doll still doesn't move. And everybody in the theater is just like, oh, shit. Okay, so then Lulu and Janice are talking about how they really shouldn't be in this room. Then they both look back at the doll. Now the doll is fucking looking at Lulu.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. And it's got that fucking face. So Lulu's like, I'm out. She fucking runs out. Come on, Janice. She's like, I'm coming in a minute. She keeps exploring the room. The doll's just sitting on the bed. She goes over, picks up a diary. She flips through the first few pages, and it's just like a little girl's diary, whatever. And then there's a bunch of blank pages, and then there's one more page with writing in it, and there's just one line across the whole page, and it just says, "Dear diary, today I came home."
Wow.
She turns around, and there's like a puppet house theater thing sitting in her room, and there's 2 fucking puppets that are just like somebody is down inside of it with their hands up, these puppets, like making them fight and talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it's like fucking scary, dude. And fucking Janice walks up to her. She's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." And like these dolls are just like, and they like turn and look at her and shit.
Oh,
and then she grabs one of them and pulls it away to say, who's under there? As soon as she pulls the puppet off, there's nothing there.
Oh,
and then she like pushes the theater to the side, and there's nobody behind it. Right then behind her, the lights in the dollhouse turn on. And she's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." But she can't just run away. She has to go and investigate. She gets down. She's looking in the dollhouse to see if anything's, what turned it on. I don't know. And then she stands up, and then the little girl B is standing at the fucking window. The real little girl. Just standing there looking out the window.
Dying is such a bitch.
And Janice is like, "Hey, you're B, right? You're the Mullins daughter? You died." Yeah, she's like making contact. It's fine.
Yeah.
I got this. She goes over to the window. She's standing behind B. And then B just goes, "Would you help me?"
Oh, God.
We just see the back of B's head. And then Janice is like, "Well, yeah, what is it that you want?" B fucking turns around real fucking fast. She's got this big black face with these yellow fucking eyes, and she just goes, "Your soul."
Oh, fuck.
And it's like, "Oh my fucking God." Janice fucking runs out of the fucking room. She gets out into the hallway, and the door fucking slams shut behind her. And she's like, anybody please help me?" She's like hobbling down through the hallway. Every door that she passes by slams fucking shut in front of her. Like, there is a fucking haunting happening now. She's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." Everybody in the house, it shows them, and they're all just like sleeping. Okay. And she's like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here." She gets into the fucking electric chair. Okay. She pushes the button and it doesn't move. And she's like, "Oh, fuck." And then she realizes she has to put the seatbelt on. She puts it on and then wrenches it tight and clicks it. And then she pushes the button and she starts going down real slow. She's about halfway down the stairs when it stops.
Oh.
She looks back up to the top of the stairs, and standing there at the top is B. Like dark, scary little girl B.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." And she's like fumbling with the button. She looks back up. Nobody there. Then the fucking chair starts going backwards, going back up the stairs. And she's like, "No, no, no, no." And she's fucking screaming and fucking freaking out. Then the chair gets all the way back up to the top. Okay. And now we see the same shot as we did the first time she used the chair. She's just sitting there like, and behind her, there's just this dark hallway. And then all of a sudden, because you're sitting there like watching that dark hallway, you are waiting to see something come out of that darkness. And then Janice just gets pulled straight upwards.
Oh, God.
Fucking screaming, and she just disappears. It then shows everybody else in the house, and they're all just still sleeping. Now the camera is on the bottom floor of the house, at the bottom of the stairs. And then we just see Janice's one boot, boom, hit the ground.
Ugh.
And a bunch of time goes by, and then Janice's body hits the fucking ground. Ba-boom! Right there in front of the camera. And it's like, ah, shit, man. So it cuts the next day. And Anthony and the nun have now driven back from town with Janice. She survived, and they took her to the hospital.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Well, now she's in a wheelchair. She cannot walk at all now. Sister Charlotte is like, "Yeah, okay, guys, she can't walk now. She's in a wheelchair, so you guys got to be nice with her and help her out, okay?" Cuts to her helping Janice, like in her, bedroom or something like that. And Janice just goes, "I can't stay here anymore. No fucking way." The nun's like, "Why?" And the little girl's like, "You know how you always say that you can't see God, but you can feel his presence?" "Well, yeah. Well, I feel a presence here, but it's evil." and it wants my soul. It told me. And the nun is just like, oh, come on now. You know, darkness doesn't attack people who are weak of body. It attacks people who are weak of faith. And your faith is stronger than all of us. You are the strongest woman in this house. So Janice is just like, yeah, okay, fuck. Not going anywhere, I guess. It cuts to Anthony, and he's like sitting in his bedroom next to his wife on her bed. And he's like carving a cross out of wood. And he's talking with her, and he's like, I'm starting to think maybe this was a mistake, babe. Bringing all these little girls here. And she's like, you know what? I don't think so. Maybe, we're just trying to breathe some life into the house. And, after what happened, maybe you should try embracing the presence of the girls, and maybe being nice to them, you fucking dickhead. And he's like, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. Janice is now talking with Lulu, and she's like, well, if nobody wanted me before, they're damn sure not going to want me now. And Lulu's like, no, they will fucking love you. Janice is like, nah, no way. You're going to get adopted now, and you're going to be so rich, and you're going to have so many dolls that you're not going to be able to come up with names for them. And Lulu's like, I'm going to name them all Janice. So now that has happened to her, and she's in a fucking wheelchair, she now sleeps on a couch downstairs, which means Lulu is in the bedroom all by herself now, upstairs. The nun's like, it's time for bed. Come on, Lulu. And she's like, oh my God, I so don't want to fucking go to bed. I do not want to, I don't want to be away from you. And then Janice is like, okay, well, you know what? Why don't you take my doll? And that way I'm always with you. And Lulu's like, okay, well then you take Sweet Sue. And they trade dolls, and it's cute. Now Lulu is going to bed, and she passes by Bee's door and fucking hears it unlock. And she can hear some fucking noise inside, and it's like, wee, wah, wee, wah. But instead of opening up the door, she just looks down through the keyhole. And the Annabelle doll is in a fucking rocking chair, rocking back and forth. And yep, it's pointed in a way that it's kind of looking at her. So then Lulu's like, oh shit, I better open this door. She turns the knob, opens the door, no doll in the chair. So then it cuts to her in her room, and now she is scared shitless. She's got that toy gun, okay? And she's in her room, sitting in front of the bedroom door, which is just darkness on the outside of that. Looking down the darkened hallway. And she's got the gun pointed at the dark hallway. And then she just fires it. And the little ball shoots out of the gun. But the ball is actually tethered to the gun. So then she starts winding it back in.
Oh,
Okay?
shit.
So she pulls the ball back and then loads it back into the gun. And then fires it again. Off into the dark. So then she starts reeling it in, and then it fucking stops. Something out in the darkness is holding the ball.
Yeah.
So the line goes tight, and then the line starts to rise upward. And it goes so high that whatever is holding it is obviously on the fucking ceiling of the house.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the gun just gets yanked out of her fucking hand off into the darkness. And she's like, oh, Jesus, fuck. And then she starts to hear some footsteps off in the dark. And it's like, dung, 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 dung. And whatever it is fucking running towards her. And she's like, oh, fuck. And then she just runs and jumps into the top bunk of her bed. Okay. She's under the covers, and she can hear the footsteps come into the fucking room. And then all of a sudden her bunk bed shakes a little. Whatever it was, ran into her room and then jumped into the bottom bunk. She peeks over the side and sees all of these black footprints that trail into her room and then right into the bottom bunk of the bed. And she's like, oh, shit. So then she looks down that crack between the bunk bed and the wall. Okay?
Yeah.
She looks down, and then there's the fucking Annabelle doll just looking up at her.
Shit.
And she's like, oh, fuck. And then this big black fucking hand goes over the Annabelle doll's face and pulls it out of the way. So the next morning, Lulu, I guess, actually fell asleep, and she's like, oh, fuck. So it's light in the room, and she looks down, and there's nothing there, but the bed covers are a little tousled. So now we're outside, and Sister Charlotte is pushing Janice around in her wheelchair, and she's like, yeah, it's good that you're outside. The sunlight will do you good. Janice is like, no, I don't want to be out here. And Charlotte's like, no, it's good for you. It's okay. Janice is like, yeah, okay, I guess it does feel good. And then she leans her head back and closes her eyes, and Sister Charlotte leaves, walks away. Then all of a sudden, Janice's wheelchair gets bumped from behind, And she's like, what the fuck? And she looks in front of her, and the door to Anthony's workshop fucking opens up. And then her wheelchair just starts fucking flying forward. Just wheeling. And now we can see from in front of Janice that there is a ghostly fucking nun pushing this wheelchair.
Oh, God.
But we don't see her face. We just see her body and her hands. This ghost nun just like fucking pushes that wheelchair right into the workshop. It slams into something and fucking flies Janice out of it. She flies out and hits the floor. Then the door to the workshop slams shut. And she's like, no. And she's like kind of pulling herself along on the ground because she can't walk. She's banging on it, trying to fucking get somebody's attention. Because all the other girls, they're outside like playing. Then she starts hearing all this commotion behind her. She looks and there's this big giant wooden wardrobe. And there's something inside of it that's banging on the doors to get out.
I'm fucking trapped in here!
Yeah. So it's banging around and fucking Janice is like, oh my God. And she just like climbs down underneath the floorboards of the workshop, okay? Mm-hmm. Like Newt in Aliens. And there's something walking around on the floor, like dung, 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 dung. And she's trying to like evade it. And she's like looking up through the cracks. She doesn't see anything. And then she's like, okay, I guess it's gone because it stops. And then she just like looks back down. And then right in front of her, about 10 feet away, is fucking Bee, the little fucking ghost girl. And she just like, crawls at her, like really fucking fast and just jumps on top of her and vomits a whole bunch of black shit right into fucking Janice's mouth.
Ugh. That was like in Conjuring.
Yeah, it's how they possess you. Because then Sister Charlotte has heard Janice's screams and has finally broken down the door to the workshop. And she gets inside, and then Janice is just sitting in the wheelchair with a big old smile on her face. And she's like, oh my God, Janice, are you okay? And Janice just like, now she's all sickeningly sweet. And she's like, yes, Sister Charlotte, I'm fine. So yeah, she's fucked.
Yeah.
Right then, Lulu hears her say that and sees the big smile on her face and just starts backing away from her. Now Lulu has kind of lost Janice as her confidant. So she's talking to the older kids and she's like, listen, they had a daughter and she got killed and she's like haunting the fucking house and it is goddamn scary. And the girls are like, oh, okay, fuck that. All right, it's time for you to go to bed. And now Lulu has to go and like do battle with the demons alone again. But I guess nothing really happens because it cuts to the next morning and Anthony is like walking around the outside of the house and he's got that crucifix that he was carving and now it's like stained and it looks real nice.
Yeah.
And Lulu is just sitting on the front porch by herself and he's like, hey, are you okay? He's trying to put a good foot forward.
Yeah.
You know? She's like, no, man, shit's fucked up. And he's like, well, why don't we talk about it? She's like, Janice is acting funny. She says she saw your daughter. And he's like, he looks up and he's like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, she went into her room and she found this big doll. And he goes, whoa. She found the fucking doll?
Oh, God.
And she's like, yeah, why? What's going on? And he goes, you need to stay away from that fucking doll. And he gets up and he walks into the house. Like, I better go make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
He goes into the house and he hears a little girl singing off in the distance. And she's singing, you are my sunshine, you are my sunshine. And he walks into the dining room, this big long dining room table, and there at the end of it is sitting the Annabelle doll. And there's a note on his end of the table. He picks it up and reads it, and it just says, found you.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then Janice in her wheelchair, like, wheels into the room. And she's like, you are my sunshine. And he's like, Janice, I told you not to use that room. And she's like, my only sunshine. And then she fucking stands up in her wheelchair. And all the fucking light kind of just like vanishes from the room and it's all fucking dark. And she's like standing up and then her bones start fucking cracking and shit. And she gets like fucking super tall. And now, holy shit, she is fucking vamping out into a demon, motherfucker. And then Anthony is like, fuck that. And he holds up the cross.
There you go.
Like, the power of Christ compels you. And then one by one, his fingers start fucking breaking.
Like in thin air?
Yeah, until he drops the cross. Outside, Sister Charlotte and all the other girls, they just hear him screaming in the house. They run in, fucking find him dead.
Damn.
Yeah, man. And they're like, oh my God. And he's got like this like super fucked up, terrified look on his face. And then it just cuts to the doctor, leaving with the body. And they're like, oh, God, there's no men here now. Now we're fucked.
We're going to be fucked!
So it's night, and Lulu sneaks into the room where Janice is sleeping on the couch, right next to the Annabelle doll. And fucking Lulu walks up to that Annabelle doll, real quiet, and steals it. She fucking picks it up and creeps away from Janice. Then she goes and picks up a lantern and walks outside. Sister Charlotte looks out the window and sees her just like leaving the property, just like walking off into the field with a big doll and a lantern. So she goes and follows her outside. Now we're in the field with Lulu and we see the house way off in the distance behind her. And she hears fucking footsteps running towards her. She turns around, nobody there. Ugh. So she starts walking again. And now the fucking footsteps are like getting real fucking close. She turns around, nobody fucking there. So she's like, fuck this shit. She walks over to, and we see where she's going. She's going to the well. Okay. She pulls the cover off of it. And then Sister Charlotte arrives and she's like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Lulu's like, this doll, it killed Anthony and it's hurting Janice. I am getting rid of this fucking thing. And she holds it over the well. And I was like, oh, holy shit. This would be the perfect time for the doll to just come to fucking life. Yeah. Like Chucky has done so many times when people are like, it's just a fucking doll. And then all of a sudden he's like, rawr.
No dice?
No dice. And she just drops it down into the well. And Sister Charlotte's like, okay, well, let's go. Let's go back to the house. And then Lulu decides to turn around and look down into the well. And it's just dark, but she's looking over it for a while. And then some fucking hands come up and grab her and start pulling her down. Jeez. Sister Charlotte has to fucking pull her out of these hands and get her off of the well. So they slam the cover over it and then they just run. They get back into the house and Lulu is screaming to Janice. She's like, Janice, I did it. I got rid of it. They go over to the couch where she's sleeping. She's not there. The fucking doll is there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Sister Charlotte is like, okay, I gotta find out what the hell's going on here. She goes into Mrs. Mullins' room, who I assume knows about her husband's death. And she's like, what the hell's going on with this fucking doll here? And then Mrs. Mullins is like, oh, let me give you a flashback. And she's like, when we lost B, our daughter, Annabelle. And it's like, whoa. Yeah. She says her name for the first time. She's like, we were heartbroken. We couldn't fucking even go on with life. So we started praying. And we were praying to whatever power would let us see our little girl again. Or even just talk with her. And the whole audience in the theater is just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Hail Satan!
Ate tui tembela.
And she's like, it didn't take long. After a while, we would just catch glimpses of her. And it shows her like walking through the house with a load of laundry. And then this ghostly little girl just like runs across a doorway.
Yeah.
And you can hear the ghost like playing. And the mom is just like, our daughter, she's in the house somewhere. She's like, it was really nice. And then she started leaving us notes and asking us permission to move into the doll. And we were like, okay, sure. So she could have a body,
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long before we started to realize that it wasn't our daughter. And then it shows her walk into her daughter's room and we see her daughter, Annabelle, sitting at her table having a tea party.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh my God, Annabelle, is that you? And then the little girl fucking stands up, turns around, and fucking vamps out and gets all huge and fucking tall and her bones are all cracking and shit. And this girl gets like 9 feet tall and it's like the Crooked Man standing in front of her. And it's all black and fucking demonic looking and shit. And then it just cuts to Anthony coming in on the aftermath and he finds his wife on the ground, like crying and bleeding. And he turns her over and she has this big giant claw mark across her face and her eye is fucking gone.
You have your mother's eyes, and they were always too
Fucking close together!
And she's like, it turned out that it was a demon and it wanted a soul. It wanted my soul. And Anthony was able to save me. You know, he called the church and got some priests over here. And they were able to save me. So then they locked the doll away. And we put it in a closet. And then they took all these pages from the Bible and they like wallpapered the closet with it. So she could be like sealed away by the word of God.
Yeah.
So it cuts to the older girls and they're walking around upstairs. They walk by Bee's bedroom and they see Janice in there at the fucking tea party table. And they're like, Janice, what the hell's going on? And then she stands up. And they're like, holy shit, she can walk now. She turns around, she has a fucking knife in her hand. And she's like, it's time to cease from sin. Everybody fucking screams. Then it cuts to them out in the hallway. And one of them is all cut up on her arm. And she's like holding it. She's bleeding and shit. And Sister Charlotte is like, oh my God, she cut you. Okay, I'll go see what's going on with her. She runs off. And then those girls, they hear the bell ring for Mrs. Mullins. And they're like, oh God, well, we can't just leave her in there. You know, let's go help her. Let's go get her out of the house with us. They go into Mrs. Mullins' rooms, and they look on the bed, and all there is her half mask sitting there, and it's all covered in blood. Then they turn around, and Mrs. Mullen is fucking nailed to the wall, only it's just her top half. She has been torn in half, and her torso and head is up on the wall.
Good Lord.
Yeah, man.
That is gruesome.
Fuck yeah. So they just fucking scream and get the fuck out of there. Now, two of the girls, Lulu and then one other, they go and they find Sister Charlotte, who has now found Janice. And Janice is like, forgive me, sister, for I have sinned. And then Sister Charlotte just starts fucking praying. And she's praying, and the camera stays on her, and it's on her face. And she gets done praying, and then the camera pans back, and we see that she is like 3 feet up in the air.
Damn.
And then Janice, who has just levitated her into the air, just fucking slams her into the fucking wall. And she hits a mirror and it explodes and shit. And she just falls down on the ground and like pretty much fucking dead. Okay. So then the girl and Lulu, they're like fucking screaming and they run out. And then Lulu gets fucking dragged away by the paranormal activity unseen force.
Yeah.
Off into the dark hallway. And as she's being dragged away, she's like, help me. She disappears. And then Janice walks out of the door and looks at that girl, holds the knife out to her, handle first, and says, or you could help me. And then the girl's just like, holy shit. She runs away. It's nighttime. She runs into the rest of the girls, and they're outside, and they're like, oh my God, the truck, let's get in the truck. They get in the truck, and they're trying to start it up. And as it's not starting, but every time they try it, the headlights turn on. And then they see what's in front of them leaning up against the barn. It's the fucking scarecrow. Yeah. Every time they start it and the lights flash, the scarecrow has now moved a little bit more and is like, waking up. And at one point they're like, oh, come on, start it up. They start it up and then the fucking lights turn on and it's gone. Truck still doesn't fucking work and they run over to the fucking workshop. The door opens up. And the oldest girl, Carol, she walks inside, but the others do not because they see behind her that hanging on the wall in there is the scarecrow. Door slams shut behind her, so she's trapped in there with it by herself. And she's just looking at it, and it's not moving. And she's like, oh, fuck, oh, fuck. And it's fucking scary looking, man. Then she looks down, and stuck into like a stump on the floor is a big axe. And she's like, okay. If I don't pick up that axe and use it on my own, that fucking thing is going to come alive and use it on me. So she starts quietly inching towards the axe. And she's keeping an eye on this scarecrow and it's still not moving. She finally makes it over there, grabs the axe handle, and cannot wrench it free of the wood that it's jammed into. And she's like, pulling on this handle and pulling on it. She finally gets it wrenched free, but the handle has now pulled out of the blade of the axe.
Jeez.
All she has is a fucking stick. At that point, the light bulbs in the lights above start to unscrew. And the lights are like flickering on and off. And she's like, oh God, no. And then she looks over at the scarecrow and yeah, he's coming to life now. But he's like moving all funny, like maybe there's something inside of him. And all of a sudden his gloved hand kind of just like falls off. But then out from the sleeve comes a big black fucking demon hand. And his whole body is like moving around and like, he's changing. So then it happens to the other hand. And he's got these two big demon hands. And then those hands reach up to his fucking face mask and just rip into it. And they open it up and there's this big fucking toothy demon mouth, like, rah! And she's like, ah, shit! So she's running, and all of the fucking light bulbs, they start dropping out of the lights above her, and she finally makes it down to the end of the hallway, and it's the last one. And it starts unscrewing it by itself. And she's like, oh shit. And she gets up, and she's just like, fuck that. Screws it back in. Then she hears a noise behind her. She looks back, there's nothing there. But while she's looking back, we see the black demon hand come in and just break the fucking light bulb, and everything goes black. She fucking screams and falls down to the ground, and now we see the fucking big demon is up on the ceiling. And then it just kind of floats down, and it starts running towards her, and she's like, ah! And she just fucking runs out the door and locks it. The door starts banging, bum, 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 bum. Then the other girls find her, and they're like, oh God, are you all right? And she's like, fuck no, there's something in there. And they run off, and it cuts to Lulu. And she is now off in the house. I guess she's okay from getting pulled into the darkness, and she's like hiding from whatever the hell pulled her in there. She decides to hide in the dumbwaiter. She knows Janice is like stalking her through the house, so she gets in there and she starts pulling on the rope, and she goes all the way down. I think she ends up in the Mullins' bedroom. So she's in there, she has a flashlight, and she's looking around, and there's all these weird like the windows have been boarded up, but there are crosses carved into the boards, so there's like some light coming through. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty unholy looking, you know? So she's looking around the room with her flashlight, and she finally sees this big spot of blood on the wall. And she looks down, and then there's more blood on the floor, and now there's a trail of blood. So she's just following the big trail of blood with her flashlight when finally she reaches whatever it was that left it there, and it's fucking Mrs. Mullins' top half with one eye, and it's going like, rah! And it's fucking coming at her. So she fucking screams, jumps back into the dumbwaiter, slams it shut, and then pulls the rope and starts going upwards. She looks up, and she sees Janice, like, up above her, trying to pull her up. And then these fucking black hands reach up and start trying to pull the dumbwaiter down. And it's all fucking scary and shit. And, you know, she has to pull on the rope to fight the black demon hands that are just pulling down on it. She finally escapes, and she's in the upstairs of the house. She's walking around in the darkness, and she's like, Sister Charlotte, is that you? And she hears some like tapping, right? She walks over to the stairs and looks down. At the bottom of the stairs is Janice, and she's the one doing the tapping. And she's like, you know what I love the most about Sweet Sue? And we see what she's doing is she is stabbing Lulu's doll over and over in the face with her knife. She turns up and looks at her. She's like, she looks just like you. So Lulu runs, and she goes into Bee's room, okay? And she jumps into that Bible wallpaper closet where they were keeping Annabelle. Mm-hmm. And she's in there, and then we see through the crack in the door that Janice actually comes into the room. She's got the knife, and she's like stalking around the room looking for her, okay? And then Lulu like turns around and then sees the Annabelle doll sitting there in the chair behind her, just staring at her. And it's all fucking scary. And then Lulu just like reaches her hand out towards the doll, gets up to its head, grabs it, and just turns it so it's not staring at her. Then she turns back towards the door, which is now open, and fucking Janice has found her. And she's like, yeah, you promised that you'd always go with me. You know what happens when you break a swear? You go straight to hell. Right then, we hear Sister Charlotte go, Janice! And she is there to save the day. She's holding up a doll, okay? I don't know if it's the Annabelle doll or not, but that doll is what takes the knife when Janice tries to fucking stab her. Ugh. And then Sister Charlotte throws a fucking rosary over Janice's head, and it goes around her neck. And she's like, rawr! It like fucks her up for a minute, you know? Mm-hmm. And then Charlotte just goes, forgive me, and pushes her into the fucking Bible closet. Pulls Lulu out of there. They slam the door shut, and then they like block it with a big clock or a dresser or something like that. And inside the closet, you start hearing her yell, let me out, let me out. And then the voice starts going like deeper. It's like, let me out, let me out. And it's all fucking crazy looking. The whole fucking house starts to shake. So then they run outside. They run into the other little girls, and they all run off into the field, and they're just like watching the house. The whole house is just fucking shaking. And then all of a sudden, every light bulb in the house just explodes. Mm. And they're all like, oh, God. And then they start to hear some sirens coming towards the house off in the distance. And then it cuts to a cop, and he's up in B's room, and he's like opening up the closet. Try to find this little girl they trapped in there. He opens it up, and all that's in there is the rocking chair with the Annabelle doll in it. And then there's a big hole in the back wall where Janice has obviously escaped. Cuts to a cop talking to Sister Charlotte, and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am. We still haven't found her. Now it's like the next day. It's daylight. We still haven't found Janice, but, how far do you think she could have gotten by herself? And then Sister Charlotte's just like staring back at him. Like, I don't fucking know, man. Don't worry. We'll find her. We'll find her. Then the priest comes out of the house, and he's holding the doll. And he's like, well, I've blessed the house. So, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then the girls are like, but what about the doll? And he goes, oh, sometimes demons, they just use objects as conduits. So it's just a doll now. It's fine. So which one of you lucky girls gets this? And they're all like, fuck no, man. There's a big shot of them all putting the doll in the trunk of the cop car and then like slamming it shut. Now that the Mullins are dead, they can't stay in the house anymore, so the priest is driving them away in the orphanage bus. And in the back, there's Sister Charlotte talking with Lulu. And Charlotte's like, that wasn't Janice, right? I don't know what happened to Janice, but that wasn't her. And Lulu's like, yeah, I know. And it cuts to somewhere else, and it's like the so-and-so orphanage. And there's a couple standing in front of them. And they are familiar. They are the Higginses from the beginning of Annabelle 1 that were the neighbors of the pregnant couple. And they're younger, and they're walking into this orphanage, and there is a social worker there who's helping them. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Higgins, welcome. Oh, I'm so happy that you're here. You are just going to love her. This woman is played by the lady in all of David Sandberg's short films.
Yeah.
And they walk into this room, and there's this little girl sitting on the ground playing. And the social worker's like, oh, there she is right there. And we see the Higginses, and they walk up to her, and the mom is just like, oh, and you must be. And then Janice turns around, and it's her. And she just goes, Annabelle. Oh. And they're like, oh, it's so wonderful to meet you, Annabelle.
Shit.
And she's like, I brought you something. I hope you like dolls. And she hands her a big-ass Raggedy Ann doll. Oh. So it's like an Easter egg for you.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the inside of their house, and it says 12 years later. And the camera is panning across like their mantle, and we see her as a little girl with them, and then her a little bit older, and then a little bit older, and now she's like 20-something years old in the very last photo. And we recognize her from the first Annabelle movie.
Yeah.
And now we see the murder from the first Annabelle movie, but we see it from inside their house. In Annabelle, we saw it from the pregnant couple's bedroom.
Yeah.
Just in the window across the street.
So she's been possessed this whole time?
Yeah, Janice disappeared, and she has been Annabelle all these years. So there's a noise, and the Higginses wake up, and the man is like, okay, you know what? You call the police. I'll go and check things out. And he walks out of the room, and then we hear him die. And then Annabelle walks into the room, and she just goes, hi, Mom. She starts coming towards her with a knife, and then her big fucking Charles Manson boyfriend comes in. And then it cuts to the pregnant couple waking up to the scream in the house next door. And the lady is like, John, go check it out. And then we see the shot of the two houses, and John is walking to the next house to go and ring the bell. And then the credits roll.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty fucking cool, man.
It was fucking cool. As the credits are rolling, we hear, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. There is a mid-credit sequence. And it's just, the camera is just settled on the Annabelle doll in the closet. And the camera is just staying on it. And staying on it. And it's just staring at us. Camera's on it for a really long time, and it starts closing in on it. That doll's head just starts to, and then it cuts away. Like it was going to move. We were all going to get what we wanted.
Wow.
Yeah. And then after the credits, there is another stinger, and we see that we're inside of a church, and it says Romania, 1945, or something like that. And then we see the nun. Huh. And the nun starts like kind of walking / floating towards us. like in between the pews of the church. And as she is passing by all these candles, they're all blowing out. And then it shows her face and she's all, fucking Valak face. And then it cuts to black. So that's the next movie coming.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Fuck yeah. I'm loving it, man. I sure hope they don't fuck up the Crooked Man movie.
I don't know. I'm excited for a third Annabelle movie.
Yeah.
I mean, they really connected it. Almost like...
They did great.
Almost like when they made the first Annabelle movie, which wasn't that well received, like they were expecting the prequel to happen.
I don't know,
which wasn't
man.
the case, but I don't know. It seems seamless to me.
It did seem seamless, and I totally credit David Sandberg for this.
Yeah. Same thing Mike Flanagan did in Ouija Origin of Evil, being considerate enough to connect the films.
Yes, absolutely.
Good job, man.
Thanks, man. There you have it, folks. Annabelle creation on Movies with Ron. What'd you think, Chucky?
You're a fucking natural!
All right, folks. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. We're on all your favorite podcast apps and movieswithron.com. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at movieswithron. We got a Facebook page. It's been fun.
All right, love ya.